Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Ericka Erickson, and I serve as the manager for Solano Kids Count campaign at Children's Network. And I'm glad to be facilitating this webinar today to have with us as our guest speakers. We have three champions for the census, and we have Marcy Kaplan with the California Complete Count. We have Robert Burris from Solano Complete Count, and then Anna Lugo with First Five California. And we are going to have this webinar for about an hour, and we will include presentations for approximately 40 minutes. We are going to have questions and answers at the end. All participants will be muted, but at any point of the presentations, questions can be shared by using the chat feature on the webinar toolbox that you have on your screen. During the Q&A, the questions will be read to the speakers. Depending on the number of questions, we may not be able to cover all of them during the webinar, but we hope this will be the first of the many dialogues we will have about the census and the efforts to ensure a complete count in our communities. So let me pass the slides here if we can have this. Okay. So as I mentioned, we have Marcy, Robert, and Anna with us. And then it's my pleasure to invite Marcy to share with us information about the California Complete Count. So Marcy.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me on the webinar today. My name is Marcy Kaplan. I'm the sector's outreach manager for the California Complete Count. I'm working with a variety of sectors, including health, faith-based labor, business, and also with the 0 to 5 population statewide. So we could get started to the next slide. Thank you. So just to give an overview of the timeline on when the census is, everyone will get an invitation letter in the mail starting, if you could just go back one slide.
No, here, right?
Yeah, an invitation letter in the mail starting March 12th of 2020. Everyone will get an initial letter, then a reminder letter, reminder postcard, and then at the fourth mailing, everyone will get a hard copy of the census. So this year, this is the first time the census will be available online. So you can go online to a portal to fill out your form online. You can call a 1-800 number to be enumerated online, or you can respond with a hard copy letter of the form at that fourth mailing. And you could go to the next slide. So just to give an overview of our office, I'm with the Complete Count office. So we're focused on a statewide campaign to ensure the hardest to reach Californians are educated and motivated to participate in census. And the U.S. Census Bureau is the one that is actually conducting the enumeration and ensuring that everyone is counted one time and in the right place. The next slide. So why does the census matter? And you're going to hear this more from other panelists as well. But the census will help decide how billions of dollars will reach our families. Your answers will help determine funding for dozens of programs that provide essential resources to Californians. And census data determines funding for schools, child care programs, road maintenance projects, and school assistance programs, and more. So, especially for the 0 to 5 audience, thinking about for the next 10 years, why it's so important to make sure that we count everyone to ensure we have resources for our children and our community going forward. Next slide. And so our outreach strategy includes focusing on where the hardest to count populations are located. The state is recognizing California's vulnerable populations, and we want to ensure that everyone has access to completing the census form and are educated that the census is safe and census is coming. We're working to leverage a network of existing CBOs throughout the state to engage them on census. And we're really utilizing some best practices from past census outreach efforts, which include engaging trusted messengers to deliver messaging around the state. We're driving our decisions for how we target our outreach and how funding has been allocated throughout the state using our SWORD tool, which I'll go through that, which includes our California Hard to Count Index, which includes indicators on what would make a community hard to count. You can go to the next slide. So this is the Hard to Count Index. This is available on the state, one of the state websites, which is census.ca.gov, and it incorporates 14 factors that would make somebody difficult to enumerate. And you can zoom in onto Solano County and also working together with your complete count committee locally to target specific parts of the county where you want to focus outreach efforts. And the next slide. And so how are we doing this important work? And we're engaging partners throughout the state. So we're working with administrative CBOs for each of our 10 regions, statewide CBOs. For example, First 5 Association is our key partner that's working with the 0 to 5 population that we just brought on, and they'll be working with the California WIC Association and Head Start California and other 0 to 5 partners throughout the state, sectors and industries to really target on how we reach the hard to count, whether it's at a local health clinic or their local church or mosque. We're working together with K through 12 schools and county offices of education throughout the school, as well as higher education institutions, and working together with tribal governments throughout the state. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. And this is just an overview of our media campaign as well. The state has allocated $46 million to our media campaign. We just launched our website in September, which I'll go through in a little bit. And our media campaign will be focusing on media buys, working locally with partners as well, when the paid media will begin to air in January 2020. And next slide. And this is an overview of our branding and new logo that's come out. So partners are able to download this from our partner portal, and I'll go through that in an upcoming slide. At the next slide, you can also go to, you'll see that we have the logo in 12, California's top 12 languages. And so partners will be able to utilize this as well in materials and outreach. Our campaign website is californiacensus.org. It includes information about 2020 census, why the census matters. There is a chat bot. You'll see Potter the Otter there, where you can ask any specific questions about the census. You can also get that chat bot onto your website through our partner portal. You can request the coding for your website and work with the local complete count committee in Solano as well. And our partner portal is a part of the website for our contracted and some contracted partners, where you can get resources and collateral, and also enables partners to share materials that they've developed regionally. And so working together with the complete count committee there to access materials if you're not a contracted partner. And I think the next slide just has some examples of our collateral, one pager, door hanger. We want to hear from partners on what kind of materials could be helpful. So definitely providing feedback if you have access to the partner portal, if not through your local complete count committee, to share with the state or reach out on what kinds of materials could be helpful in the region as well. And the next slide. And then another great way to really get updated on efforts ongoing. The state will be creating toolkits for partners that include copy and images for social media and to share messaging. This is our CA Complete Count Instagram, where we really want to highlight partner event coverage. So please share with the state, follow us, and share pictures or resources that you've developed regionally that we can highlight across the state. And then the next slide, this is our campaign Instagram. The content is really for the public and hard to count. It's you can see the imagery is different, and really just to be a more compelling public-facing Instagram for the broader population to educate and motivate individuals to fill out their census form. And then the next slide, thank you again for having me. I just wanted to be able to give that high-level overview, and also to highlight David Tucker, which many of you may know is the Regional Program Manager for your region. I was filling in for him today, given my work with the 0 to 5 population, and his contact info and mine are both available here, so please reach out with any additional questions, and thank you again.
Thank you, Marcy. Really important and useful information. Just want to clarify to all participants, if you have any questions, you can use the chat box on your tool that you have there for the webinar on the right side of your screen. And we will go to the next panelist, Bob Burris. He's the President and CEO of Solano Economic Development Corporation, and he's going to share with us information about the efforts that are part of the Solano Complete Count Committee.
Thank you, Ericka, and thank you, Marcy. That was a great overview from the state level. I think our local effort kind of folds in very nicely to your presentation. I think that we're sharing probably about 30 minutes of slides in 10 or 15 minutes. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. Next slide, please. And I won't go through all of this in detail, but basically, as Marcy mentioned, this is this census in particular is very important to us at the state and at the regional level. This is going to be probably much more challenging than census in past years, with a larger immigrant population. I think more language barriers and other barriers that range from living situations to information technology and broadband access, and a host of other issues that really is what this campaign is all about. From a state perspective, we've run some numbers, and basically, for every 1% of population that's not counted, it's close to $500 million of foregone revenue for the state, and you take that down to the local level, our share, we're talking several $100 million of lost revenue in our region, and what that means is funding for our nonprofit organizations for healthcare and health services and for protection, our roadways, all of those things that really are important to what we do on a day-to-day basis. And not to mention those of us that are involved in economics, really relying on data that's created from that census over 10 years to guide big policy decisions and planning and building and transportation, and all those things are critically important. So we want to make sure that we're operating for the next 10 years on a correct basis and not with false information. Next slide, please. So this can't be done without partners. So and I have to say, my experience so far has been tremendous working with the state and our region and all of our partners locally at the committee level. We're constantly in contact with the county of Solano. We entered into a contract last April to fulfill the local duties of this census campaign, and we've made a lot of progress. Our communication with Region 3's manager, as Marcy mentioned, is tremendous, David Tucker, and we work in really guidance of all of our participants at the state level. We're working with our cities and the county as well to make sure that as jurisdictions, They're reaching out to their hard to count populations. One of our strengths as an economic development organization is our social media and our promotion. So we're utilizing that same strength to get the word out about the census and to reach really every corner of the region. And we're sharing our best practices and methodology with other cities, and you have to say probably more so learning from what other cities are doing. So language access is critically important within this region. We're utilizing our language access application of SWORD. We're really seeing in this area probably the most prevalent non-English languages spoken are Spanish and Tagalog. So we're focusing a lot of efforts, but we know there are other languages as well, and we're going to be really leaning on the support of the state and federal government for that. We're trying to find, and we've been successful in finding non-English speakers to support us at our question access centers, our question assistance centers, sorry, and kiosks. And we're finding locations for those. Preliminarily, it looks like our libraries, Solano community colleges, and city offices are being utilized in Solano, and there are more of those to come. And we've gained and we're seeking new partnerships with cultural organizations where non-English languages are spoken. We did a quick analysis using SWORD, as Marcy mentioned, and we found that in the 21 census tracts in 3 cities, there's 13 primary factors that could contribute to a non-response. And much of that has to do with unemployment, a recent move, or households on public assistance. But other factors include children under the age of 5, non-English, below the 150% of poverty line, the lack of broadband, and crowded households. They all contribute to a likelihood that people won't respond. So that's what we have to combat. Next slide, please. So this is a very busy slide, but it shows a little bit of the analysis that we performed looking at the census tracts. And all of these are areas and neighborhoods with a higher than average likelihood in the state to have a no count. So, and in each one of these, SWORD provided the analysis of the top 3 reasons why there will be a large hard to count population. And you can see some similarities in all of these, but many of those are where what I just previously mentioned on the last slide. So that index score is that hard to count index, which the state sort of scores areas based on how they think there's going to be a response. And I believe that 38 or 39 is the median. So you can see all of these areas are well above that threshold. And the highest scores are the ones that we need to prioritize the most. Next slide, please. So these are the frequency of each one of those factors. And you can see that unemployment, moving, being on public assistance, all of these factors, there's a lot that are economically related that affect the housing unit, the mobility of people, and their ability to respond. So we need to create a pathway for these people to easily respond to the census electronically, and there are a number of methods beyond that to be able to respond to this. Next question. So one of the most important parts of what we're putting together from the Solano area is our complete count committee. This became sort of our highest priority as a method to get the word out. To date, we have 40 members of our committee, and you can see the variety of members from this list, everything from government elected officials to nonprofit organizations, cities and counties, ethnic chambers, and many other organizations that are all coming together, and I could say with a lot of energy, wanting to get involved and to support the effort. And they're all doing this really from a voluntary standpoint. There's very little funding for us to distribute. Even though we're working on that, everybody knows the importance of getting involved. So our complete count team locally is the county, our organization, the Economic Development Corporation, our complete count committee, our U.S. Census Bureau, the state of California, including Marcy, our SWORD administrators that provide the data and intelligence we need to do what we're doing and create our plan, both our strategic and our implementation plan, our marketing support, and of course, other counties and cities that are actively involved. And some of these counties have been involved in this for a couple of years. So learning from them and being able to utilize their talent and their best practices is going to be important to our success as well. So what are we active in right now? We're finding those locations for those question assistance centers and kiosks. So locations where people that want to respond to the census can do so, to get their questions answered in a variety of languages and have support on site to be able to get them through that process. Our chatbot is up on our website, and we're creating materials and event booth layout. So we hope that when you're in and about different events throughout town, you'll see a census sort of pop-up location where we can answer questions for you. We're finishing up our implementation plan, which is a detailed plan for the next really 6 to 8 months, how we're going to get us to the census date, which is April 1st, and do all of our follow-ups beyond that reporting. Our committee continues to grow, and for any of you folks on the line, if you're interested in being a part of this, please let us know. We're adding to our webpage and landing in social media, so you're going to see a ramp up of information arriving on your computer and even on your cell phone as we ramp up our texting ability too, to get the word out. We're planning for a marketing drive. We're coordinating hiring for the Census Bureau, so you're going to start seeing open ads for positions, and that's everything from supervisory to enumerators, so the folks that are actually going to have to go out and knock on doors for non-respondents. And there's still a lot of learning to do. We're learning about the state's marketing plan. We're learning about how to combat misinformation and scams, which again is probably a higher risk this year than in past decades. And we're coordinating with the federal, state, and local marketing support mechanisms, and learning quite a bit there too. So with that, that's in a nutshell, that's what we're working on. We're extremely busy. We're really excited about the success, and it's been a great experience for us, really getting to know our region even better than we knew it before. And it's been a very positive experience, and there's a tremendous amount of energy in our region and beyond. So excited to be a part of this presentation. Thank you for the opportunity, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Bob. Really useful information. I signed up for the text message, and I signed up for more than one county, and it's interesting to see the differences, but it's a really good system, and I suggest that everybody that would like to be involved in these efforts and to know more about the census to sign up is on the information is on the Census, Solano Census 2020 website, right? How do we get there, Bob, on the website?
So you can go to our we have an alias. You got me on the spot. Let me look it up here real quick because it's on our EDC website. Hold on one sec. Okay, that's SolanoCensus2020.com.
Mm-hmm. Okay, SolanoCensus2020.com. And then there you have many resources, but also information about the Bay Area efforts, where you can see all the phone numbers for the different regions. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Bob.
I'll have scrolling in there information and news reports and social media that we're putting out as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. So next, we'll be talking about efforts to count all kids in California with Anna from the First Five Association. Anna?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me be a part of this webinar today. My name is Anna Lugo, and I'm the statewide trainer for the First Five Association of California. And in the next slide, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are and why we're so deeply invested in the census. The First Five Association of California, as some of you may know, is a nonprofit membership organization that advocates for our children throughout the state. We work in partnership with 58 local First Five commissions to ensure that children remain a part of the conversation at the state level, but that we're also building strong, effective, and sustainable systems to serve them in our communities. We are deeply invested in the census, and we're leading the campaign for all children to get counted because we understand the consequences of our state and the consequences to our state and local community if this doesn't happen. We are a network focused on children, and we know that we will have a greater impact in getting families counted in every household. So in this slide, we want to make sure that we give our children, you'll see that we want to give our children the opportunity to thrive, and a way of doing this is making sure that they get counted in the census. As our speakers touched on before, we will have a stronger political representation at all levels, both national and all the way down to local. And we can have more accurate funding for our programs, which are critical and key to our families and our children specifically. As we know, there's a lot of funding that can be lost, and a lot of that funding, as you will see, is for many of the programs in education and health that impact our children. In the next slide, you will see the types of fundings that are at stake. And these are some of the programs. This is not a comprehensive list for every federal program that has funding at stake. And the other part to note is that our minority, our children of color, Latino and African American children have the highest net undercounts in, and it also have gotten worse. The undercount for our children since 1980, it went from 1.4% to 4.6% in 2010. In our next slide, you will note that there's a lot at stake when it comes to funding, and also California has some of the highest undercounts. So it is so important and critical that we make sure that all of our children get counted, and we are well placed for ensuring that children get counted, but also other hard to count populations, because if we think about it, really children live within family units that have some of those other populations that were spoken about earlier. And we do stand to lose about 1.5 billion in California. Some of the reasons why some of our children were not counted in 2010, it is important to note that about 80 to 85% of the children not counted in 2010 did live in households that fill out the census. And so some of the reasons that they weren't counted is because either a person, the families didn't think that children were supposed to be counted, or they were afraid to count their children. And so part of our charge really is to help families understand that every single person in the family needs to be counted. And so making sure that people living in diverse living situations understand that you don't have to be an adult or a head of household or a family member, that if you live in the house on April 1st, 2020, that you should be counted. And also help them understand what happens when your child maybe spends half the time at your at someone else's houses, right? Their other parent, if that is the case for them. If we go to the next slide, we will see some other reasons that children weren't counted and that they were missed in the 2010 census, and going back to the lack of trust in government, and also the mixed status families. So especially as we have seen, and as we have witnessed over the past couple of years, the political climate at the national level, it is important that we build those trusting relationships with our families that are mixed status, so that they are able to really understand and trust in that their information is confidential and won't be shared with the Department of Homeland Security. If we go to the next slide, this is, we went over, Marcy went over the timeline earlier, and so this is another overview and reminder of what the timeline is for the census, and also really understanding that it isn't too late for us to be engaged in the census, and that this is now is a time and an important moment for us to not only train ourselves, but also train our employees and our organizations in the importance of the census, because ultimately they will be our trusted messengers. We go to the next slide. You will note that we have a history of over 20 years in needing to and working with partners and local organizations. And so we have a strong sense of the communications and the advocacy and in how to collaborate with organizations at the local and the state level. So some of our partners are Head Start and WIC, and as well as NALEO, who is doing a lot of the work with our Latinx community. So we are working with all of them, and we're also working with our local First Fives to make sure that we are bringing all of the communications that come out of the federal and state level to the local community so that they are well informed and able to then pass on the messages in ways that our communities can hear them. If we go to the next slide. Next slide. So as you know, the census is really an opportunity for all of us, and especially us at First Five, to leverage our assets and to build on our relationships with our philanthropic communities, with our state government, with our local communities as well, to ensure that we are using our resources wisely and that we're using it to the best of our capacity so that we are able to get all children counted. We are the voice for our children, and so one of the voices for our children, so it's really important that we're able to utilize all of our assets to be able to get them all counted. And as I said before, we have partnerships with NALEO and WIC and Head Start at the state level, and we're working closely with them. This, the strategy we're using is really the trusted messenger strategy. We are working on train the trainer trainings that are culturally responsive to the communities we're working with. And we will be working with our local First Fives to train them and train their trusted messengers and why the census is important and how to talk to families about the census and really help them understand the importance of the census, but more than anything, really honor the experience of families and why they may not want to get their children counted, and really help explain, right? And so this really goes back to relying on the relationships that we have built locally with our families, and ensuring that our partners have the information and the skill set to be able to have those conversations with them and really encourage them to not only fill out the census, but identify what their barriers are so that we as the organizations are able to really support them in removing those barriers so that they can fill out the census. Because as we know, ultimately our goal is to get as many people counted, and especially children. Next slide. One of the things we're doing is having our materials in multiple languages. In terms of the trainings, we will have trainings that are culturally responsive and that really are encompassing of the different cultures and different family dynamics and different points of diversity that we will be encountering locally. So we will be relying on our partners and on many of other trusted messengers to really give us feedback on how we can make the trainings really speak to everyone, especially the people that work on the front lines with our families. So the language barrier, we're working really hard to remove, as you guys saw. Also, the state and our local county governments are doing the same. Next slide. So I'm one of the one of the things we're doing is we have regional coordinators. So we have a regional coordination team in different parts of California. And for Solano County, Rachel is your regional coordinator. I am the statewide trainer, and I'm also a resource to you all. And this is our contact information. If any of you have any questions or need any resources or support or information, you can feel free to contact us. And thank you so much again for having me be a part of this webinar.
Thank you so much, Anna. Such important work you're doing, and we are looking forward to working with you. Again, if you have any questions for Anna, you can type on the chat box on the right side of your screen. And I have to say that I'm looking forward to bring the trainees to Solano that you'll be offering. I'm looking forward to partner with you. It will be a super intensive work in the upcoming weeks and months, and to ensure that our kids are counted. So I will be now sharing a little bit about our Solano Kids Count campaign. We are now less than 5 months away from the Census Day, and we are launching the campaign with by signing up different partners. This is a community education campaign implemented in collaboration with local nonprofits, school districts, and business, providing child care, early education, and other service for children. As Anna shared, it's very important that we really involve and engage trusted messengers in this campaign, because they are the ones that know the best message and have the relationships to really engage families in the census and share the importance, educate them about the importance of the census. So we are tapping into our existing networks at Children Network. We have the Solano Local Child Care and Development Planning Council, the Solano LPC, the Solano Children's Alliance, and the Family Resources Centers Network. And then we have also the Solano Complete Count Committee. So we are planning and already starting to work with them to sign them up to participate in the campaign. So our goal as part of the campaign is to directly reach at least 3,000 hard-to-count families, engage over 30 organizations in the campaign with their commitment to implement outreach strategies with the families they serve and work with. We are going to do that by distributing education materials in different languages, convening planning meetings, convening community forums, staff education booths at community events, host staff trainings in partnership, for example, with First Five Association, provide small grants to organizations, also implement mobile and social media outreach and local media outreach with public relations efforts. And then also involve policymakers in educating them about census-related issues and about the importance of them being a champion for the census, and how this will make a difference in our county for years to come. We see this as a community building opportunity and an opportunity for our members to work together on a common goal during the upcoming year, raising awareness about the importance of children to be counted in the census and through their leaders, staff, and families. So it's not only, of course, the main outcome is a complete count, is a count that will be higher than previous census, but we also recognize that there are many other outcomes that come from the campaign. As we build relationships, we are also building the capacity of our members and our partners for civic engagement and social change. So some of the outcomes of this campaign, we also recognize that it's important for our partners to scale up their contact list, train leaders in efforts like phone banking, if it's something that they believe that would be important to do. develop new partnerships. We see even in the Complete Count Committee with Solano how we get to know other partners, other stakeholders in the community that we didn't know before. And this is what we also hope with this campaign, as we are all champions for children. And it's important to notice that children is one of the common sectors of the population that are undercounted throughout all the hard-to-count populations. And so we know that income families, they have kids. We have that families or communities of color, they have kids. And then we have many others that are considered hard to count, that kids are a common thread among this population. So it's by reaching out and messaging our campaign focused on children, we are also reaching to other what we call hard to count populations. We also believe that we are building our capacity and of our partners and network to engage families and in the broader community in new ways that we didn't do before. Many of us were not so involved 10 years ago, or not even part of the organizations that are part of this campaign. So we will be engaging the families in a different way, and this build relationships with them too. And develop the capacity to collaborate, all these tools that we are developing, and then our relationships will increase the capacity to collaborate to address future issues that we may have to face together. So these outcomes, we believe, that will carry into future advocacy efforts, developing leadership skills, and strengthening relationships among ourselves and our partners. So we can do a lot together in this campaign, in this upcoming months. The clock is ticking, and we have, like I mentioned, we less than 5 months to Census Day. Census Day is April 1st. It's like we say, it's 10 minutes that someone will fill the questionnaire. That will be 10 minutes in 10 years that will really bring to our communities over $10,000 per person that answered the questionnaire. And we are now, the timeline for our campaign, this month, we are launching the participation form and application that's on our website, childnet.org. We have a tab there that's Census 2020, and there you'll find the participation application. We are inviting all our partners, partner organizations to fill out the form. And then by December 1st, beginning of December, the first week, we are going to launch our Small Grants Program application, where organizations, especially child care centers, subsidized child care centers, family resource centers, and other grassroots groups will be able to apply for small grants up to $5,000 that will support their efforts to incorporate the census message in what they are already doing. We don't want to take our partners away from what they are already doing. It's only to incorporate the message and education efforts as part of their daily activities with parents and families and staff and stakeholders. So we are going to have plenty of meetings. We are planning to have the Solano Kids Count Committee meeting before the Solano Kids Count Solano Complete Count Committee meetings. So the next one, it will be next week on the 21st, and we will send the invitation to everybody that's participating in this webinar and beyond. So every meeting that we have with the Solano Complete Count Committee, we will have before the meeting a meeting of the Solano Kids Count Committee. So everybody that's interested in being part of the planning efforts, please join us in these meetings, and you'll receive invitation for that. We are planning this campaign with our partners and hope that you join us. Please go to our website, childcare.org, childnet.org, Census 2020, and sign up to participate. And for more information, please feel free to contact me and then any other staff member at Children's Network. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. this session is being recorded, and we are going to be sharing on our YouTube channel and our Facebook and social media. Please share this information with everybody in your networks and staff. And thanks again for joining us. We hope that this is only the first of many efforts and webinars and conversations about to make sure that everybody in Solano is counting. Please visit our website at childnet.org and join our campaign by filling out the participation form. Thank you so much. And this session is closed.